From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business.
The water crisis in the Philippines, and I call it a water crisis because it is.
An admission from none other than the president himself. Authorities are addressing the looming threat as millions of Filipinos still suffer from the lack of water supply as the dry season kicks in. Groups are working with communities on solutions for water, sanitation, and hygiene, while other companies are making sure supply is enough for all. The vision of clean and potable water in our sea. Sweet vision. How is the government addressing the country's water supply and management problems? Let's now have an exchange with Sevillo David, National Water Resources Board Executive Director. Mr. David, thank you po so much for joining us. President Marcos, you just heard, admitted we are in a water crisis. Yeah. What is the actual state of the country's water resources now?
Thanks, Rico, for the invitation. Currently, the Philippines, we have around what we call around 146 billion cubic meters of potential water, and 52% are already allocated for various uses. However, with this situation, based on the current situation on demand, and including the effects of climate change and the effect of the quality of our waters due to pollution, the various freshwater resources in the Philippines we have considered under threat. And of these, we have already identified around 526 areas, municipalities, which we consider water stress.
Mm-hmm. And one would think that we don't have a water crisis because we're an archipelago and surrounded by water. Yeah. Mr. David?
Yes, because I think what we have considered now, what we have to consider is yung fresh water, the freshwater availability. Of course, considering that we are an archipelagic country, we have a lot of surrounded by seawater. However, this extracting or using seawater for potable or available as freshwater resources is still economically prohibitive at this time. So that's why currently, we are still using what is available water, fresh water, within our rivers, and of course our waters beneath our land, which we call groundwater.
Mm. So, what is the government doing, Mr. David, to address this so-called water crisis, especially now that we're in the midst of the dry season? Don't we have enough resources, facilities to treat this water so our kababayans can drink clean drinking water?
Yes, in the short term, during of course, this forthcoming dry season, we are looking at for example, here in Metro Manila, the effects of this dry season. And most of the water sources for Metro Manila is coming from a single reservoir, which is in this case the Angat Dam. It supplies around 95% of the water sources of Metro Manila or water supply requirement. However, with this looming threat of El Nino, it now we consider it as a concern, considering that right now, even though the level of the reservoir, the dam, is still at what we call a normal operating level. However, with this looming threat of an El Nino, which might the possibility of lesser rainfall by the end of the year, I think we have to manage what is currently within the current supply or water stored in our reservoir, particularly the Angat Dam, to sustain our requirement during those periods.
So, Mr. David, we just can't rely solely on the Angat Dam. We have to build more dams, right? We have to build more of them to be able to supply our kababayans with clean water, potable water.
Yes, right now the government has been prioritizing the development of alternative water sources, So I think we have one through under the efforts of and the Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System. No? They're trying to develop no this alternative water source in Quezon, no, or Rizal Quezon area, no, which we call the Kaliwa project. And likewise, no, within the Marikina watershed, there is an initiative from the private sector in developing alternative sources, so which we believe no, which can be commissioned no anytime this year. And I think this alternative sources can support no complement the current available waters that being tapped from the Angat Dam.
Yeah.
Likewise, in the Laguna Lake, there are some projects or water treatment facilities that are now tapping the Laguna Lake for potable water sources for the use of our kababayan here in Metro Manila.
The MWSS has said, Mr. David, no, that the capital region has enough water supply for the remainder of 2023. Can we say the same for areas outside of Metro Manila?
Outside of Metro Manila, I think some of these, most of the areas are still dependent no, on what we call groundwater or what we call the water under the ground. No? But I think some areas are already experiencing no, this threat no, on water supply, particularly in the Cebu province area. No? I think there are they are experiencing that. So I think with this current El Nino phenomenon, I think we have to be prepared and put some alternative and how to mitigate the effects of this dry season.
And so with this El Nino phenomenon, Mr. David, what is your advice to the Filipino consumers? How can they and businesses adapt better to our current water situation?
Yes, I think the NWRB is advocating on managing the demand because, as I said, no, our water supply is not unlimited. No, I think we have the one way, no, to address this increasing demand for use is manage the demand. No, and I think we have to be more responsible in the use of our water. And the possibility of recycling and conserving some water, particularly the households, will be a good way, in managing our demand. And of course, likewise, in fixing, those water leaks, those leaking faucets. This will help a lot, in managing the demand and not to be wasteful in the use of our waters.
Thank you so much for this water situation exchange, Sevillo David of the Water Resources Management Board. And now here's a rundown of the week's top business stories. The country's outstanding debt rose to 13.75 trillion pesos in February, higher by 0.4% from the previous month. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says business confidence for the next 12 months improved in the January to March quarter due to high consumer demand and the economy's reopening. And President Bongbong Marcos approves a merger of Land Bank and the Development Bank of the Philippines. Finance Chief Benjamin Jokno has confirmed. Well, Jokno says the move will create the country's biggest bank and will be formalized before year's end. And coming up on the exchange, where your business is our business. Water comes in trickles for poor communities in the country. We have an exchange with Clean Water International on making the basic human need accessible for all. And what happens before clean water is distributed to homes? We find out from a company running and monitoring several water facilities. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust.